Okay, so I've always really liked the idea of if you could survive purely in a cave. Now, as it is, that's not really possible. You could, live like a bat where a cave is your home, but actually surviving completely underground is not really possible, especially when you start going deeper. At that point, it's really only mold and bacteria. That's no fun. But what if there was actually, some sort of food source down there? That was the idea I had around a year ago when I came up with the logical idea of a meat crystal. What, it doesn't seem very logical? Well, the alternative was that it was like a plant or something, which I think is even less logical since it would need sunlight. So I figured that some sort of meat ore that grew like crystals was a better choice. Anyways, the point is that I came up with this idea before, and now recently I've been wanting to do something with the theme of mining and caves again. And so I was looking back at this idea I did, and I realized that this little meat crystal idea actually has a lot of potential to be expanded on. So that's what we're doing today. So to begin with, I first began working on the tools, since not only are they a very important and iconic part of a mining theme, but also because they have a perfect counterpart for food, which would be kitchen utensils. I mean, think about it. Forks and knives are kind of doing the same things as picks and drills. They're just moving around or breaking apart chunks into smaller chunks. I mean, a spoon is literally just a smaller version of a shovel, except, harder to use cereal. So that's what I was doing here at first. Just finding a way to mix a pickaxe and a shovel with something like a fork and a spoon. Because that's something you have to be very careful about when making this sort of stuff. You don't just want to cram two things together, or else you'll have a random, messy blob of different things that doesn't really look like anything. Ideally, you want to mix things in a way where you can still kind of see what they were based off of, but they're just put in a different way. Like here, where I tried to keep that iconic top part of a fork while mixing it with that a curved shape of a pickaxe. You can still kind of see what both things were based off of. They weren't just crammed together, Then, after that, because I'm not super knowledgeable about the whole mining process, I started looking up a bit about what sorts of tools they actually use for mining. And while I was already aware of most of them, I did discover this thing called a gold mining pan, which I think it's used for sifting through rocks and stuff to try to find gold or something. Anyways, it doesn't really matter because the point is, it looks exactly like a plate. I mean, it's a very unappealing version of a plate, but still, it is literally just a plate. So of course I just had to add that as well. I'm telling you, this idea of mixing kitchens and mining together, it was always meant to be. They just fit perfectly. Oh yeah, then after that I drew this cheese rock thing. It's some sort of expansion on the meat crystal idea, I guess. I'm not really sure, I just kind of wanted to draw cheese. After that, I went on to draw one more thing, which is probably my favorite combination. You see, for this one, I was thinking of a minecart. And so at first I was maybe a teacup or a pot or a pan. Or heck, maybe even a muffin tray. Just something that's purpose is to hold foods or liquids in some way. That was where my mind was at. But the problem I was having with all these things was that they just weren't square enough. A teacup, although it's not a terrible idea for a minecart, just didn't look iconic enough, you really want to keep that original essence of an object's shape. It's like what I was talking about earlier about keeping the iconic parts of an object. You don't just want to mix them together randomly. You want to keep their shape. And so, after that, I began thinking more about what the actual purpose would be of this minecart. How would it actually work in terms of meat mining or any sort of food mining? And that's when I realized that a cooler would actually be the perfect thing. Because not only is it the same squarish shape as a minecart, but also it would make a lot more sense because if you're going to be mining meat, then you probably want to make sure it's not going to go bad. And if you're mining these things deep underground, then it's going to take a long time for that minecart to transport them to a place where they can be kept cold. So having a cooler cart would be the perfect thing, because they could be kept cold immediately. It makes complete sense, except for the whole fact that you're mining meat, but as long as you ignore that fact, it makes complete sense. Okay, but that was just a warm-up. Now for the real question, which is, what does this place actually look like? What would a cave with a meat mining operation in it really look like? Well, unfortunately, I wasn't able to find any exact references for this sort of thing. So before going straight to the mining operation, I decided to do my first environmental piece based mainly on the piece I did a year ago, as like a improved version. So like the original, I wanted the focus of this image to be on a big chunk of meat in the middle, with some other little like mine carts or miners around at the bottom. So before anything else, I began working on where I would want the meat to be. A mistake I did with the first piece, and that I used to do a lot with my art, is I made it way too saturated. Like, if you want to make something look colorful, really what you want to do is make the rest of the picture very desaturated. You need that contrast. You can't just make everything colorful, or else nothing seems colorful. So, for starters, considering this is a cave, I made sure to dial back the color by a huge amount. And speaking of contrast, I also just made sure to put a lot more thought into the lights and darks of the image, making sure that the meat crystal near the top of the image is near the stream of light coming in from the back, while the other parts of the image, like the corners, are kind of more faded and a lot darker. Something that was very important to me while making this was to make sure that the meat actually looks good. And as I discovered, it is very easy to make meat look bad or gross or rotten, but not so easy to make it look tasty, especially in a cave. Like being surrounded by giant chunks of flesh underground, it's like something of a horror game. And so I really tried hard to make this meat look more like a nice burger patty that's simply in a crystal shape rather than an actual giant lump of meat. I'm sure I could definitely do a better job of it now. I did actually paint this a few months ago as to when I'm recording this, but the main goal was that it doesn't look gross, which I think I did achieve. If I was to do it now, I think the way I would make it look better would be by trying to make the meat look more realistic. I think it's kind of dangerous to make something look more realistic, because either you just end up adding more details that make it look gross or uncanny, but if you do capitalize on the right elements and make the right elements more realistic, then that's what actually makes it look good. Like, if you try to make a realistic piece of meat and you just capitalize on the soggy, wet factor of it, then that's gonna look really bad. But if you manage to capture the correct crispiness and like fried, blackened edges with some light reflected in the grease of the patty, like those are the things that make it look good. Making it look cold or blue or something is the quickest way to make it look moldy and bad. Don't do that. But anyways, as you can see with the final piece, the idea of it is pretty similar to the first one. It still has those rock miner guys, some mine carts, and of course the big focus on the meat at the top, but just done a little better. I think it feels a little more spacious now than before. So let's move on to the next one. So for this one, I wanted to try my first attempt at the mining operation. And honestly, I don't like how this one turned out, so I'm gonna kinda skip through it. But basically, the idea was to mix the architecture of a kitchen with its cupboards and things, and somehow apply that to a cave mining operation. Unfortunately, I don't feel like I quite captured that nice kitchen-y feel correctly, and it kinda ended up becoming a mess of things. You see, the true beauty of a kitchen comes from the square, precise layout of the cupboards and the appliances. And for this piece, I just don't feel like I got it correctly. It's a bit too wonky and all over the place. It's not precise enough. It doesn't capture the iconic shape of a kitchen. So let's just forget about this one and move on to the final one. For this piece, I made sure to go all in on that kitchen feel. First off, I made sure that the focal point would just straight up be a fridge, just to make it really clear that this is not just a mining operation, this is a kitchen mining operation. I also made sure to keep the other parts of the site fairly straight and simple, similar to how real kitchens are laid out. Though, at this point, I felt like maybe I've gone a little too far with the kitchen idea, because remember, it's important that this place actually feels big. I mean, this is supposed to be a whole dig site we're dealing with. It's serious business. It can't just feel like a boring, small kitchen in a cave. It's gotta feel like a big kitchen in a cave. So I tried to add a lot of these little guys around the place, doing things with machinery and stuff. I don't know if I got the size of it correct. It still doesn't feel that big, but I do feel like it still captures the feel of a kitchen, which is an important thing here. Anyways, that's gonna do it for now. I've expanded on this idea from just meat crystals, which is good. Now I've got this whole little mining operation here. Although I still think there's a lot more potential. Even just as I was making this stuff, I got the idea for what if there was an oven section that melted down stuff? Maybe like a giant pot that cooks popcorn, or I feel like there's a lot of potential with this thing, so I'm definitely going to return to it in exactly a year. So get ready for that, because I'll be back.